everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the stream. Hello. Mindy, thank you. I am live here on Twitch, YouTube, and Patreon. That is where I am live. Somnus, thank you for the 50th month. And I have officially released the book. It's out. It's done. The book was officially published yesterday, and it's been really cool. I think that oh, sorry, do you does Patreon hear the audio? You still hear it? Sorry about that. It was supposed to be muted. I was I think before I announced the book, I was like, when it comes out, it's gonna be wild. And then I announced it, and that was cool. And then I didn't know this would happen, but slowly, like, reviews started trickling in. Like, people started reading it because of the advanced copies. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. This is very cool. And so by the time the actual release date came, I was kind of like, this doesn't feel like as big a deal anymore. Like, I've already seen some really positive feedback. Like, it's very cool, but it's like not as big and scary as it was initially. And my agent, I was even talking to my agent. She was like, she's like, a lot of authors might feel like disappointed on release day because you're like waiting for something big to happen, but then it's just that's just over. So I was like, you know, I was kind of prepared for that to some degree, but it's actually been very cool. I think that I had sort of lowered my expectations, and they got so low that then it happened. I was like, I overcorrected. This is actually very cool. There's so many people sending me pictures of their book, telling me about how they got it, how they're reading it. Because that was the main thing. She's like, you know, most people don't read it right away. But so many people are already reading it or already sending feedback, which has been very cool. I very much, last week I was here. I sat here in this chair on this stream, and I said to you, I've got 2 streams coming up. I said, I'm going to do a Friday stream to do the soundbite tournament, and I'm going to do a Tuesday stream for the book release. And I did neither one of them. So I apologize. Friday was canceled because my camera broke. I can talk to you about that because I do have a new camera now. And then Tuesday, I ended up canceling because we ended up having an opportunity to sign books up at the Barnes and Noble at the Grove in LA. So sort of last minute, as things have been, drove up to LA. Took a long time. The drive was a long drive. Spent probably about 6 hours driving up and back. But that's fine because I got to the Grove, went to the Barnes and Noble there. I'd been there before, and it's a really cool Barnes and Noble. It's like, in my eyes, it's like the Barnes and Noble. You know what I mean? And there's probably better ones, but in my mind, it's like the one. And I went there and I was like, hey, I'm here to sign stock. And the woman was like, oh, Taran. I was like, oh yeah. And so we signed a bunch, and took some photos. I did a little video for Instagram. So if you are in LA, I think I signed 80 at the Grove. Um, I would assume there's still some left. I would assume there's still probably plenty left, for being real, but who knows? Um, you can go and try to get a signed copy there. Um, because it was last minute though, I was like, oh, I have a lot of friends in LA, but I'm only here for a couple hours. Nobody's going to be around. But because Taylor's been such a part of the book experience so far, I just texted her. I was like, "You're probably not around, but last minute, I'm coming up to the Grove if you're around." And she was like, "Actually, I am around." So I met up with Taylor, which was fun. Um, and ended up meeting a couple of fans who saw the Instagram post and came to buy a book, which is cool. So it turned out to be a very fun release day. I thought it was a good time. And then today I went over to there's another Barnes and Noble um in San Diego that I went to and signed. I think I signed like 120 today at that Barnes and Noble. And they I think will be shipping out books to other Barnes and Nobles in the area. So if you're in San Diego, there's a chance you might be able to get some signed copies at Barnes and Noble. I will also be going back to the Book Catapult next week to sign more copies there. So they may have some more copies available at some point. Um, but yeah, that's been part of the journey today, and yesterday. Um, my shoulder's fine. It recovered pretty quickly. It was painful during, but it was fine after. And yes, so that that was the funny thing. I posted this on Instagram. I'll probably try to post more, but they put the book in celebrity bios. I was like, so where's it gonna go? And she was like, oh, right here in celebrity bios, next to Charlie Sheen and Gwyneth Paltrow. And then when I went to the Barnes Noble here in San Diego, I got there and I saw it here. Um, in the best. Oh, hold on, I can show you now. This is part of the camera story. The best nonfiction. Once again, right next to Charlie Sheen. So me and Charlie Sheen were book buddies, apparently. Um, yeah, nobody apparently told them that I'm not a celebrity. um, but I thought that was very funny. Anyway, so I tweeted this out today as well. Um, I will be doing an official book club for the book. This is the hardcover copy, by the way. I have one. I think I have 30 coming to me. Um, I have not signed this one for myself. Despite having signed many. Um, but I will be doing an official book club on my Patreon. So if you are interested, um, this is this is the plan that I have for the book club. Um, I have created on in the Patreon chats. I've created um different threads, essentially different like chat rooms for each of the first like 7 to 8 chapters. So as you're reading through it, you can discuss each chapter individually in that section of chat on the Patreon with other people who are reading it also. Um, and then you can also ask me questions in that thread. if you have any, or just discuss things in general. And then I think I'll probably do weekly starting maybe next week. I'm not entirely sure. I want to make sure I give people time to catch up. But yeah, the idea is to help people avoid spoilers. Not that it's like super spoilerable, but uh but you know, it's I think it's still cool to like discuss chapter by chapter. So then on a probably weekly-ish basis, all of this so far is available to all tiers of patron access. Yeah. Um then on a weekly basis, I will do a live stream on Patreon where I like read through the discussions, react to them, answer any questions, and then also if you are, and this is where the higher tier patron comes in, if you are a higher tier patron, $15 or above, you can watch the live stream live and ask questions in the chat as people are doing right now, or also jump on the call of the live stream like we do the patron Q&A for Rob as a podcast, and you can chat with me about the chapter. And basically the idea is to sort of like talk about the writing process and like what went into it, why I decided to include what I did and where things came from, and all kinds of hopefully fun and interesting things if you like the idea of learning about the writing process and you want to hear more about like the behind the scenes of how things came together, and um you know, all of this stuff. Uh, and maybe even additional details that I left out, so on and so forth. So you can like, the idea would be for that chapter, you can come, call in, have a discussion with me about it if you want. And then afterward, I will release that video for the rest of the patrons. So you can still watch it. And so you can still pretty much participate entirely by leaving questions in the discussion page. But if you want to participate live, call, and that's like the higher tier version. That's the general idea that I have at the moment. We'll see how it goes. You certainly don't have to call if you don't want to. You can, if your preferred method to interact live is to send messages in the chat. That's perfectly fine. And then if you just want to send questions in the chat for that chapter itself, that's also fine. I think this will be fun. I think it's a cool idea, but I have no idea. I've never like seen or done anything like this before. Um, so yeah, tentative plan would be for like next week, I think, to start with the introduction, which is a pretty easy start process, and then weekly from there. So it will take a little while because it's 15 chapters. So that hopefully will give people time to receive the book and to start reading and everything. And then, you know, see how things go. Has Rob finished it? I don't know, actually. Rob, by the way, has announced a book. This is actually, I found this very funny because there's two major conversations. The episode's about to start. Obviously, I'm here for Survivor, by the way, if you're watching this like YouTube video. This is relevant to Survivor. Rob has a book. Should have called it Rob has a book. That would have been funny. There's been two major conversations I've had with Rob in terms of like me telling him things. The first was I told him I'm moving to San Diego. The second was I've writing a book. I'm writing a book. And when I told him I was moving to San Diego, I was like, hey, just to let you know, I'm moving to San Diego. And Rob was like, oh, that's great. Love that for you. I also have something to tell you. I'm actually moving to North Carolina. I was like, oh, that's unfortunate timing. Not that I moved to be near him, but I thought, oh, added benefit would be fun. Also, he had talked to me before. Again, I didn't move I very much did not move for Rob in any capacity. And he had told me before that they'd been thinking of moving. But I thought it was very funny timing that we both happened to do that at the same time. And then second conversation now has been, hey Rob, I sold a book. Because I didn't tell him until I sold it. I didn't tell anybody until I sold it. Um, and he was like, "That's so funny," because I'm also writing a book. All right. Anyway, we have the episode starting now. And gotta make sure I'm on the right scene here. This should work. This is where we are. This is the Patreon version of the stream right here. Okay. We also get a prediction running. Commercial by 512. Yes, no. Yeah, his book I think is. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly. A while out. The Order of Writing Books with Stephen, me, Rob. I think Stephen been working on his for like 10 years. But I didn't know until he announced it. Christina just said that she can't be sent home next. Even Steven. Soph, how could you? How could you use his name against him like that? Thanks so much, Camel. Anyway, if you are reading the book and you are on the Patreon, I highly recommend. Honestly, this is purely selfish. If you have like detailed thoughts and reactions per chapter that you want to put in that chat that I set up, um, it's extremely gratifying to me to see people respond to all of the bits of the thing, because it's like I spent so long writing it, you know what I mean? And then if first of all, it's weird that people are just like, Done. But then also like they talk about the thing as a whole. So anybody that wants to discuss it in detail, that's kind of what the book club is for. Um, and I'm very much down to hear detailed thoughts because I love hearing people's reactions. Thanks, Allison. Oh, the idol. Thanks, Amby. I will say, I think there's a world where this season is way more enjoyable, where it's edited better. I think it's so fascinating that Sage and Juwan have become power players, given where they started, and they're almost like two entirely new players. It was weird to me that he only told Sage. What happened at Tribal last night? I genuinely don't remember. Alex. And Steven wasn't in on the vote. But if he can't trust Jawan, surely he can't also trust Sage, who also blindsided him. So why wouldn't he think that Sage has told Jawan? She's having a Lolo. Knowledge is power. It's but is this true? Is the question. Okay, commercial. A little bit of early commercial, so that was a yes. Next prediction. Does Jawan tell anyone about the idol in the next segment? Does he tell anybody outside of Sage or the cameras? Um, let me just. I'm gonna do my. Let's be real. There's not much else to talk about other than to complain. Um, I'm frustrated that it feels like we were told over and over and over last episode. Rizzo's the person I'm trying to get out. A bunch of them. Savannah's the person we're trying to get out. Savannah's the person we're trying to get out. Rizzo, we're trying to get out. We're trying to get Rizzo out. But Alex is in the way because he's playing both sides. Okay. I didn't see Alex play both sides, but you're telling me he did. And then he said he did after he got voted out. So I'm sure that happened. That was annoying, but whatever. Theoretically, to me, the story should now then be okay, now that Alex is out of the way, back to Rizzo and Savannah. Right? Except we're being introduced to this new episode with so now Steven and Christina are on the outs. Why? What do you mean? Where is this coming from? And it feels like they're trying to use the idol as like, okay, so Juwan is now against Christina because of the idol. But surely Juwan also is thinking about still Savannah and Rizzo. Like, okay. Anyway. um, let me explain the new camera for you. My camera broke after last week, after last week's stream. I turned it on to record the Amazing Race Patreon video that I also, by the way, I talked to Brittany Haynes for that one. It was very fun. Turned on the camera that morning, was broken. It's dead. This thing, dead. Fried. Took it to a repair place. They were like, yeah, it's fried. The main board is fried. We don't even have those. It would cost more than the camera to repair. All right, episode's back. I'll keep telling the camera story later. Oh, I was gonna do possible challenge. That's fine. It was part of the prediction. Does Juwan tell anyone? This is looking like a very likely no. How did it get so overheated? I mean, I've used it for 5 years. Camera repair person said that he thought it was likely the dummy battery that I used to keep it powered on. It just started degrading over time and had like a spike in voltage. What's going on, Christina? Jeff. All right. Well, I mean that was just honestly like that was just tough to watch. Just like raw grief, you know? Yeah, I don't get why they don't show the schoolyard pics. Yeah, I'm just not a fan of. How did he fall off? I'm not a fan of the way that Jeff. I don't think it's. I don't think it's like the worst thing in the world. It's just not how I would handle it. I just like in that moment, it doesn't feel like the right time to be like, man, Survivor's great though, isn't it? I've heard this. I've heard this talked about. I do feel like it's true. I feel like there's a concerted effort by Jeff and production to create those moments that they want these like big moments that they can like put on social media and like send to the Emmys that are like, hey, look at us. We are a serious show that deals with like serious topics. And and it and I think the end result is that it comes off manufactured. Obviously not from Christina. That was a very raw experience for her. But like, you know that Jeff was told by producers that she was struggling that day. You know that he asked her those questions probably until he got what he needed and was ready for the this is why Survivor's so great. And they're now really trying to make this like balance beam thing work. And like the weird thing is, and let me tell you this: this is all like very relevant stuff to Steven's book, which I thought was very good. It doesn't change the fact that this is a very real experience for her, and it is something that's happening. It's just the way that it's being packaged to us doesn't feel as natural as it could, I would say. The way they all turned simultaneously creeped me out there on the boat. The other thing it's just to me, again, this is not anything to do with Christina. Just to make that very clear. Like very much to do with the show and how they're dealing with the story. But like part of why it doesn't feel like it's being packaged in a genuine way is this idea that like it came up kind of out of nowhere. This was basically the first we heard about it was this episode. Culminating in this moment with Jeff and then her struggle through the competition and then through the power of doing a survivor challenge, it's all better now. It's all fixed. And it's just like that's not really how it works. Um and again, maybe that was how it was for Christina. We don't know. But like it feels wrong in the way that it's told. Anyway, I should. Juan did not tell anybody about the idol, but I'll run it back. So the camera's fried. It would cost more money to fix it than it would be to buy a new. Well, not a new, another used. I got this one used 5 years ago. So I was like, okay, time to get a new camera. And looked into various options. They're pretty expensive. And it's like for my purposes it's overkill. For the most part, but I do kind of like run the like I run these a lot. Like most cameras are not designed the cameras of this quality are not designed to be run for as long as as I run them for. Um and so trying to find the right balance of like quality and like runtime and all of this stuff is tricky, and we'll continue again because this is the episode just came back. Not that interesting of a story, I guess, but the main thing are the new features, which I will talk about. This is what I mean. This is a cool journey. From being the guy who kept accidentally Going into somebody else's bag. 2 power player. Providing for his tribe mates. I think it's an interesting arc, but I don't think it's one that the show is focused on a lot. Because it prioritizes small little episode level stories. I'm sorry, that bun looks terrible. Yeah, because the buns look terrible. The softer hammock. Okay, so this story does still exist. It's just like, why did they portray that scene like it was new information? She's even in the scene saying, "This is what I've always wanted." But they were like, "I've got a plan." What's the plan? Savannah. Once again, Juwan did not tell anyone about the idol. Warwick, thank you for gifting 5 subs. Hold on.
Wow, a 5!
I'm running Juwan back one more time. Anyway, there was one feature of this camera that was severely lacking, which is that it could not do autofocus. I could not do autofocus while not recording because I don't actually record. I just steal the feed from the camera. So I got a new camera. It was very expensive. But I got a new camera and it autofocuses. You know how often I do this when I podcast? I'm like, what are you doing? And now it follows me everywhere I go. If I wanted to, I could stand up and come back. Well, now it lost my face. So I could be back here and be like, look at my books. So that's cool. I can show you things. Like, you know how I said, if you watch my thing with Brittany, she was like, yo, why didn't you sign my copy? And I was like, well, it was sent straight from the publisher. And so I said I'd send her a book plate. So this is the failed book plate that I started to write and then realized that I started in the wrong place. So this I threw away. And then I did another one and I just mailed it out to her. The only thing is, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I don't know how the colors are looking right now. I had set the other one up so that the colors were a certain way, and this is the thing. I know how to do color correction. I know how to do coloring in general. I'm just not good at it. I just don't have the eye. Um, so like right now, brightness, white balance, color correction, all of this stuff, contrast. I was working on it today, and I was like, I think it's good enough for now. I think it looks fine. I think it was fine. I don't know if it's perfect. It might be better than before. Who knows? Because before, it's not like before I could do any better. Um, there's one issue right now, which is that you might have noticed, like during when there was a commercial break when the screen was red, it made my face red. Like the light from the monitors impacting too much of the colors. Um, so I need to figure. I feel like it wasn't that bad with the other camera, so I need to figure out how to fix that. But um, anyway, we're back. The biggest thing is the autofocus, which is cool. That group of five, in my opinion, has actually just been running the show for the last few rounds. No, no. But like, see, they're acting like this is a huge move, but it's like this is what you've been saying that they were going to do every episode up to this point. I don't think you are in the middle between these two groups. What makes you think you're in the middle? Like, there's a group of 3, a group of 2, an individual, and another individual, right? There can't really be a middle unless you are with Steven in the middle. But if your idea is vote out the individual or vote out one of the 3, there's no real middle ground there. You're either choosing to be a number 4 or, you know, literally anything else. But that's if that structure is what makes sense. From my perspective, what it looks like is, and let me do this prediction. Once again, Jawan did not tell anyone about the idol. He has been confounding you, prediction betters. Do we get immunity next round? Next segment. I think from the perspective of Rizzo and Savannah and Sophie, Soph, Jawan and Sage flipped on them for one round and then basically came right back to them. And they've been in lockstep ever since. From the perspective of Jawan and Sage, it appears, I think, that they always wanted Savannah out, but couldn't because of Rizzo's idol, took Nate out instead. Then Savannah's just won immunity. And so they haven't been able to let Savannah out. But they don't actually seem to want Rizzo out. The only reason they want Rizzo out is because he's in the way of them taking Savannah out. What they really want to do is just snipe out Savannah and then seemingly go to the end with like Rizzo and Sophie and Soph. Right? Like that seems to be what makes the most amount of sense to what they're doing. And they had, yeah, then they had the thing with Steven, but that now seems to be fractured. But I don't think they ever intended on working with Hina long term or even seemingly very short term. We're back. And it is immunity. I'm sorry. I just noticed it's 5:45 ish. I was like, there's no way we're only halfway through. Damn it. I thought I was doing better this episode. Rob made a video saying Survivor 51 needs new stuff. For sure it does. I mean, I'm on record every single day at this point saying I think they need to change up their storytelling. I really feel like that's the biggest thing. 3 people sit out of this challenge. That's it? That's not really how negotiations work. Jeez, this seems dangerous. Eesh. A lot of people working on their handles. I think you got to go with more than one. You only go one. You're almost guaranteed to have to take twice as many trips as anybody else. Okay, now she's taking 3, but she dropped it. See, that's the thing too. When you take 1, you've now practiced with 1. You have no practice with more than 1. I would go at least 3, personally. There's only 7? Yeah, I'm taking half and half. Easy. I don't think those pieces are so big. I don't think you're failing because the pieces are falling. You're failing because you're not balancing properly. I think you're fine taking almost as many pieces as you want. Steven is a good lead here. Wow, yeah, she has gained. Wow, he's so far behind now. Yeah, she's done. He just doesn't. He does not have the hustle that she does. I think she was just faster. It's still wild to me that this person was not even in the first like 6 episodes. All right. You know what the prediction is. We're going back to Jawan. Does he tell anybody about the idol now? We've got to know. Am I going to watch Traders Canada this week? I will probably give it a shot, but I can't promise that I'll like fully watch the whole thing. I think, you know, some speeding up, some skipping of challenges, perhaps we could be in for. if I do watch it. But what I will say is there might be like a little bit of a lull. Obviously, tomorrow's Thanksgiving. I just spent yesterday driving up and down from LA. So may have a small interlude of content. I will try to get Amazing Race out tomorrow, but I cannot promise. But I will certainly be able to like get some stuff back this weekend. So something like, Traders Canada and Amazing Race could be like a this weekend thing. But I did manage to get all of Physical Asia and Squid Game out. Yeah. Is Physical Asia good? I thought it was great. It's subbed, but you can also watch it dubbed if you want. I watched it subbed. I particularly enjoyed watching the sub of Physical Asia because there were so many different languages being spoken. It was cool to be able to hear all of the different languages. And then the subtitles on Netflix, which I didn't realize at first, color code the subtitles so that you can tell which language is being spoken if you couldn't tell by hearing. Mac and cheese is, of course, on the menu. I eat mac and cheese every Thanksgiving. It's a staple. Um, but it is neat. It's very cool. I liked watching it. I thought it was a fun time. And it's this new style of like reality show. We saw it on Squid Game. Why does this commercial look AI? Or it look like AI. Anyway, where it's like a lot of competitors, but also like it's not strictly formatted. So every episode is different. That was the case with Squid Game. It's the case with shows like Physical 100, Physical Asia. The only thing I don't like about it is the binge release, which is maybe why they feel comfortable doing it. But like, I would prefer it if we had like a bit of a slower release. Um, but I like this new format of like, not every episode needs to be the same thing. You know, there's different kinds of quests that we're gonna do, different kinds of challenges. Sometimes we're just gonna have like some fun mini games or some social interactions. Like, I like not knowing what I'm gonna get. We're back. We're back. So on Instagram posting, there's a Chinese version of Physical 100 on YouTube that's more balanced on gender and fully develops character arcs of women. That would be very interesting because that is the biggest fault of that show for sure. Why? I get what she's trying to do, but she's definitely staking a lot on one tribal. Oh boy. I don't understand how this makes sense in any capacity for Sophie. It wasn't even Juwan that said about Christina's idol. I mean, given the kinds of challenges they've been doing, I feel like Sophie would just win almost every immunity if Savannah wasn't there. And Savannah's part of a trio that she knows about. I'm so confused about what the logic could possibly be for Sophie. This is how I act on Blood on the Clock Tower sometimes. it feels so rushed to me. I mean, like, you can correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe you can't correct me yet. Maybe you'll correct me later if I'm wrong. But like, it seems to me that Sophie ratting out this vote has changed the course of the entire season. That this is the single most important thing that happened almost in the last like 4 episodes. And we really just kind of yada yada'd it and went straight to, oh, I guess they're not with us then. Like, what? What was the feeling when you found out that Jawan and Sage were flipping on you? What was that moment like? What is, like, give me an on the ground report. You know what I mean? Why did she really make that decision? Was it really because she's worried that if Savannah leaves, then they'll vote her out because she's the biggest challenge threat left? Is that genuinely the only thought crossing her mind? I can't believe that to be the case. People don't think like that. Most people don't think like that. Most people have some level of thought about, like, well, what does the actual structure of the game look like if I make this choice? And so, like, can we explore this a bit more? You know, like, could we spend some more time on what seems to be like the most important flip of the entire season? Jawan did not tell anyone about the idol. He continues to confound these prediction people. Does anyone stand up at tribal before vote? You know exactly what I mean. Does anybody stand up for any reason before the vote after they sit down? They could stand up to give a speech. They could stand up to go talk and have a live tribal. Once they say it's time to vote, once they're getting up to vote, it no longer counts. We are not talking about playing idols because that's post vote. If somebody stands up to play knowledge is power, that could certainly count. If somebody stands up just to stretch their legs, as long as it's in the correct time frame, I will count it. It's so funny to me that they're advertising Survivor 50 this early. I mean, it makes sense. It's just also funny to me. Where death happens. See Bean Boozled? Jeff, that is not fun. I love this. I love when people start talking about how easy people are to read in their tells when the real reason they know that they're lying is because somebody told them. When prior to that, they'd been bamboozled themselves for days. You know, Jeff, I watch people and I see the ways that they really, struggle to lie to me. Once Sophie told me they were lying to me. Rizzo's correct. It is all hoopla. No standing. Wow, huge result. A ton of people thought somebody would stand. Sophie did say in confessional prior that she can't beat Juwan in the final two, or the final three, sorry. I love Savannah's face to Juwan. To gauge reaction. So they went with Juwan. She's playing him so hard here. This is something I would do. It's that extra vote that's gonna clinch it, right? All right. My frustration is I feel like that should have been better. I think that was kind of fun, but I think it should have been better. You know what I mean? They like I feel like, and this is again why I get frustrated when people are like, "Oh, it's the cast, it's the cast." When it's just like the cast is delivering. We're just not being told the right stories in the right order. Like, and I think a huge part of the problem is that, like, I think it's been clear to everyone that Jawan was not going to succeed. And I think because of that, they refrained from making him like an actual primary main character. Didn't fully explain his reasoning behind different votes he made. Instead, focused on the people that eventually ended up beating him. But because they did that, they muted the storyline. Like, in order for this vote to have been as impactful as it actually felt like, probably on the island, they needed to actually build up Jawan as a major endgame threat, as a major power. But the problem is that nobody really felt that way because they spent the first half of the season dunking on Jawan as the guy that picks the wrong bag. And then when he finally did get into power, they very rarely like gave him good reason. Like they didn't give him a lot of like good thought process for why he was making decisions. Instead, focusing more on like Rizzo and Savannah. All right, we're back. We're back. Okay. All right, there it is. That's the episode. I'm not listen. I don't want to be too complainy. These are the thoughts that go through my head, and I know not everyone is going to agree with me. I do think that most people are agreeing that the season in general is pretty lackluster. I really feel strongly about why I think that's the case. I think that very clearly this cast is delivering this. I mean, I feel like this has been a pretty dynamic post merge. But the issue is in the way that they've told the story, that it has felt very boring. The other thing I've seen some people, I'm seeing some people in the chat say it's not racism because we are now, I mean, the jury's starting to look like Camp Comeback out there. And I just want to say, without saying that it is racism, because I don't know. I know for certain that I can't say that it's not. We don't know. What do you mean? You can't say that definitively. You can't say that's not racism. You don't know. You know what I mean? We barely even know why they're making the strategic decisions they are strategically, let alone whether or not there's racism. Listen, it's in the book. There have been people out there who have said the N-word. Wasn't in the show. Would you have said there's not racism on that island on that season? Probably. I don't know. And yeah, I'm not saying that's what's happening this season. Not saying that anybody said anything like that. That was a previous season that I'm talking about. But I think that there's like an instinct to kind of like quickly shut down any conversation that even brings it up. You know what I mean? And it's like the reason you bring up the conversation is to talk about it. You can't just be like, nope, sorry, not this one. How do you know? Were you there? Anyway. Yeah, I mean, I generally think that there's three primary issues I have with Survivor editing currently. One is that they're too focused on trying to make these emotional journey storylines happen. They're trying too hard, and it's transparent. And number two is that they are not telling good long-term strategic stories. They're focusing on an episodic, like episode by episode plot for each thing. And I think it's hindering them with any kind of real momentum that they could build in the new era. There's no good momentum in the new era. One of the biggest like things, one of the bigger, like remember like Jesse worked because they had momentum building Jesse into that bit. And there were other problems I had with that season's editing. But Jesse as like a front runner winner, they actually built him up to be a front runner, to be a phenomenal player. And they built that momentum and then they tanked the momentum. It seemed like they were scared to do that with somebody like Jawan. And so that kind of brings us to the third issue, which is an issue that has always existed with Survivor, but it exists in different doses depending on what the season is. But like, you can tell when they have their favorites. And when they have their favorites, that's the perspective you get. And when that's the perspective you get, you can sometimes really miss out on things. And I think this season is a key example of that because clearly the protagonists that they wanted to showcase and show the perspective of primarily were not the people who were in charge for most of this post-merge so far. And so instead, we've been getting this kind of like, how do we survive the reign of these other people? And when Sage is shown, and Sage and Juwan so clearly were kind of running this show. But it wasn't really portrayed, like, we would occasionally get that they're the power couple, they're the power duo. But we never really got to build them up like they were really going to win this whole thing. Instead, and I think more crucially, never really got to hear their perspective on like why they were making the decisions they were making. The Alex thing, I think, is a huge one. Like, where did that really come from? They made it out to be like, hey, Rizzo saw through Alex. Okay, so was that really what it was? Like, what was he really doing then? When Alex is like, yeah, caught me, I was playing both sides. It's like, okay, what was he really doing then? Like, you know? And I feel like Sage has been here only when she's there to be like, nope, sorry, Savannah. And we're not getting the sense of like, okay, Sage, the strategic player who's sniping out others. Like, what were Sage's real thoughts on Alex? Why did she really decide to go in that direction? What were her long-term plans? That's the huge thing for me, is that they never talk about these players' long-term plans. We know Savannah's long-term plans. We know Rizzo's long-term plans. To some degree, I think we know Sophie's long-term plans. They're a trio. They plan to probably go close to the end together. Maybe they have some slightly different plans after that, but like, they're just looking for any numbers that they can bring to that end game. But when it comes to like, what were Sage and Juwan doing? We don't really know. What was their end game? Was it with Steven? Because we saw a whole bunch of weird stuff with Steven, and apparently they didn't trust Steven as much afterward, but they still voted with him this time. So like, what was real? What wasn't? What was actually happening? We don't really care. The Survivor episode doesn't really care because Juwan loses. And that's, I think, a huge failure of the show. And that's not a new one, but I think it's particularly prominent in the new era because of the other issues that also have compounded with it. Anyway, that's I'm sorry. Anyway, check out the Patreon. The Patreon stream is much more fun. There's a book club happening on the Patreon for my book, Behind the Mirror, and all kinds of other fun stuff over on the Patreon. Other shows that I'm watching that I am in. Listen, I watch a lot of shows that I like. I promise I'm not just complaining all the time. I watch a lot of shows that I like, and many of those are on Patreon. So come and join me there if you want. If you haven't ordered the book yet, please do so. This is like the week. All of the pre-orders and this week of sales, they're all gonna matter for lists. So if you're gonna order one, please order one now. But that's it. That's what I got. Thanks for hanging out. See you guys later.